So this month, I will be doing something a little bit different. For the month of August, I am doing what I'm calling the Sharpening Your Axe Summer Series, nonprofit strategy sessions on sustainability. August is a great time to slow down, to go deep, to learn, to plan, and to prepare for the hustle of the end of the year. Just like Abraham Lincoln said, if you give me 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend 6 hours sharpening my axe. So, my goal with this series is to help you sharpen your proverbial organizational axe during the slower, somewhat days of summer. Each week, I'll be focusing on one of the core elements that make nonprofits strong: fundraising, boards, staff, finance, and organizational direction. Each week, I'll be sharing content that explores the theme from different angles, a combination of short form strategy tips, long form trainings that go deeper into some aspect of the theme, and always an encore podcast episode featuring me in more of a generative conversation with one of my incredible guests, exploring the theme from yet a third angle. These strategy sessions are fire. So grab a notebook, grab a pen, curl up someplace really comfy, and enjoy. Hi, this is the Nonprofit Mastermind podcast, and I'm your host, Richie-Babbage. Each week, I do a deep dive into the mindset and strategies and tactics and tools of scaling an incredible high-impact nonprofit. I'm so glad you're here. This is 6-Minute Strategy for leaders of growth stage nonprofits, where I share a quick strategy tip on launching, scaling, and leading your growing, stable, and sustainable nonprofit. This week's video is focused on a strategy for how to free up your time, increase your intentionality, and keep your team aligned as you grow. Organizational playbooks. Some people call them SOPs, or standard operating processes, process guides. I like playbook because it implies that they are team-oriented and responsive. This can also feel more accessible than SOP. Either way, we're basically talking about the same thing: a systems approach to organizational outcomes. Now, as you increase your intentionality, documenting what works in a way that allows you to use that information as you grow to keep everyone on the same page and to reduce friction becomes really, really important. One thing I'll acknowledge is that this whole topic of creating systems can often feel cumbersome. Deconstructing and reverse engineering is often the opposite of what we want to spend our days doing or feel that we have time to do. You may think your staff is too small, or your organization is too young, or you're all just too busy. You talk all the time, so why waste time writing things down? You may have tried it, but it didn't stick. You may feel like you've wasted your time writing things out, trying things like Asana and ClickUp and Monday, but no one ever uses these plans or these processes that you've put time and effort into creating. You may be wary of doing this because your processes still feel super organic and shifting. My advice about all of this is like sharpening your axe. You don't want to depend on people's idiosyncrasies about how their role should be carried out as you bring on new people, as you flesh out your team, and as you have to onboard and train people. You want to take back your time. Things like SOPs and organizational playbooks save time down the line. Here's what I think your future could look like: having your team in a structured, simplified process, creating scalable playbooks so you can keep moving together forward towards impact. Free from firefighting inside your organization, trusting that you can delegate to your leadership team and that you'll still get the level of consistency and excellence that you care about. So how do you make this vision real? How do you actually build a playbook? 1, start by creating a document for every core function or bucket area of work in your organization. Some core examples include fundraising, communications, hiring, volunteer recruitment, volunteer management, partnerships. Those are just some examples. Others will depend on the workflows inside your organization. Data management, evaluation might be unique to the way that you guys work together. 2, document your actual workflows. Just ask people to make a list of what they do, to monitor, to create, write down the things that you do. If you were to hire someone and then go on vacation, what are the conversation topics you'd want to cover with that person. This is what you can ask your staff person. Don't just hire someone to create an SOP for your folks. Your organizational playbooks have to reflect how you and your team actually do the work. Third, keep it nimble. As soon as you do anything that will be done repeatedly, as you grow, UID processes that will continue to happen over and over. Write those down. And as things change, update that process so that it actually reflects how people are working in a systemized and standardized way. Fourth, ingrain your playbooks into your culture. Make walking through your playbooks part of onboarding every new staff person. Have updating the playbooks be part of the person whose workflow it is, part of their role. Host things like ops days. When I was running my organization, my director of operations loved these. They were once a quarter. We spent 2 hours just on ops, that including everyone reviewing and updating our playbook, our shared playbook, understanding what other people were doing with their time and where our systems were bumping up against one another. When she first recommended the idea, everybody sort of rolled their eyes, and it actually became one of the best team and culture sort of sustaining and organizational stability ways that we spent our time. Fifth, structure. Procedures, references, and templates. Those are the 3 things you want in your playbook. Procedures are things like checklists and processes. What steps do people take to carry out their work? References are documents that you reference often. These can be password references, mission statements, financial documents, things that you know in carrying out a workflow someone will need to refer to. Third, templates. Standard models for emails, standard partnership agreements, things that really protect people from having to reinvent the wheel every time they sit down to go through a workflow. Finally, last step, update, update, update. Remember that your organizational playbook is a working document. Make sure that people use the playbooks. If a workflow emerges that is better than the ones that you are doing, update the playbook. This allows you to balance organized growth with intentionality. That's it for this week. See you next time for 6-Minute Strategy. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of the Nonprofit Mastermind podcast. I always have so much fun doing these episodes. Definitely check out the links to all the goodies that I mentioned in this episode. You can get that at brookericchiebabbage.com/podcast for the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode and think that you have a friend or colleague who would also enjoy, I would love if you would leave a review and share. Have a great week.